If I get 60 subscribers and 200 likes on this video, on this channel, by the end of the month, I will stream Dead Rising 1. Hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Jet Force Gemini is a cult classic made by the legendary company Rare. While some can argue it is the best game Rare ever made, I can at least say it's Rare's most innovative game on the N64. Jet Force Gemini follows the story of 3 members of the Galactic Law Enforcement, Juno the leader, Vela his twin sister, with their loyal cyber pooch Lupus. Later, being joined by the ex-Mizar robot Floyd as they try to stop the hordes of drones led by an insectoid called Mizar, enslaving the race known as Tribals, inhabiting the planet Goldwood, their home, being shipped out throughout the galaxy to do menial work. Jet Force Gemini fight their way through the galaxy on their way to Mizar's homeworld, who's putting out a near-endless army of drones to take over the galaxy, while our heroes try to stop them and save as many tribals as they... never mind, all the tribals along the way. The team that originally made the game Blast Corps worked on the game beginning in 1997 with lead engineer Paul Mountain, who had previously worked on Diddy Kong Racing, with some sections clearly referencing it. Rare took heavy inspiration from just about everything, like movies, anime. There are elements of Star Wars in there, Aliens, Dune, Battle of the Planets, even Stargate. It was a real mix of everything and anything space related. That's including some of the most important games ever made. All this while trying to create one of the most dense games of its era, with all the extra content that they were putting in, all while trying to revolutionize the third-person shooter genre.
Compromises had to be made on that, and setting Mr. Pants on fire was ditched from the game as well.
I do remember on the end of Jet Force we were desperate to get a lot of stuff in there, so we kept kind of trying to get these features working, and as a result we probably ended up spending some weeks towards the end where we were doing maybe like 80-90 hours. I remember driving home some mornings at like 5 o'clock in the morning, going to bed for a few hours and then coming back in about 9. But it was just, you just loved doing it because it was something that you really wanted to get working, and you wanted it to look the way and sound the way and feel the way that you wanted. So you're kind of driven along by this kind of passion for making it work and getting the game just how you wanted it to be.
All this while coming out the same month as games like Winback, Resident Evil 2, and Rayman 2. Gameplay mixes a little bit of everything popular at the time, from your classical shooters, mostly boomer shooters, Duke Nukem, Doom, Quake, sprinkling in elements of a Rare collectathon. All that with a little bit of Super Mario 64-esque platforming. Then with an anime space adventure aesthetic, like the aforementioned Battle of the Planets.
Visually, we were very influenced by a 1980s cartoon called Battle of the Planets. And the original character models all look like that. We eventually changed the character models, but the original look was very much based on that cartoon series.
With a very violent, dark tone, mixed with a cute alien world, showcasing how twisted this teddy bear world can become after evil alien insects colonize their home. A lot of Jet Force Gemini's tone was inspired by Shigeru Miyamoto. The game's protagonist originally sported an overly cute visual style, but this was altered at Nintendo's behest. I remember us showing Shigeru Miyamoto an early build, says Musgrave. After some particular candid feedback on the characters, we made changes. Now combined all that with a Rare special, a 3D platformer collectathon with Metroidvania aspirations. Does that say 282 tribals? What the fuck?
There was also all these kind of side challenges, and one of them was probably the most famous one in terms of people who played it is the one for collecting all the tribals, because that could be quite tricky if you were a bit kind of trigger happy, because you could lose a few in the crossfire. So, it was a lot of fun to make. Everybody who was on there was kind of mad about space games and space films, for that matter. We'd all kind of
The platforming is serviceable at best. Each character has their own quirk, from heat-proof armor to the ability to swim, even hover boots. All three eventually getting jetpacks, being crucial to returning to old levels and finding new weapons and gear. The biggest problem with the platforming is the fact that you don't actively control your camera, just hitting the Z or left trigger to snap it behind you. Which is fine, but precision jumping needs a little bit more control, or static vision. That's really only part of the focus. Most of the game will be spent using machine guns to completely eviscerate hordes of infestation. If only we had some foggers. One of the perks of playing this game now is the Rare Replay version, allowing you to choose your aiming method. Old school being for those that like getting pegged by German dominatrix, using a cactus. I mean, it's great to have the option to play with the old control scheme, but with the patched version's control scheme, the original control scheme is incredibly limited, forcing you to run around spraying and praying, since you need to dodge gunfire. But you have to stop yourself like Resident Evil 4, meaning you take way more damage than you need to. And unlike a GoldenEye where auto-aim can put in a bunch of work, you're not playing a first-person shooter, or a third-person shooter. You're playing a platformer with shooter elements, so you're never quite sure where your shots are going to go, and Rare seem to figure this out since Perfect Dark comes out the very next year, with a very accurate auto-aim because it's a first-person shooter. This may not be surprising, but Rare had a massive amount of their employees work on all three of these games. With the Rare Replay version, we have something the N64 never had: 2 sticks. We can circle strafe every fight, not wasting lives fighting snipers or getting abused by rocket launchers. We're capable of fighting the way we were always meant to, running and gunning, giving us the precision we need to decapitate an alien drone with a fucking machine gun. And with the situation Jet Force Gemini puts us in, we need all the advantages we can get. The level design is next level, always showing off the different locations, different planets, and different ships, with each level showcasing their own style and combat scenarios, actually tricking me at first, making me think the AI was genius. Upon further inspection, realizing it was just absolute dickish enemy placement, allowing for intense and challenging gunfights. Or Arnold Schwarzenegger-esque badass moments like firing a machine gun down a drone-filled hallway while their guts and limbs fly all over the place. The use of their enemies is masterclass, at times making special variations for specific locations, just to establish how dire this situation is. While nowhere near the same ambitious long length as Donkey Kong 64 or Star Fox Adventures, we still get that feeling of we're in the swamp of sadness. I never completed this game up until this analysis video, mostly because of this map, and the fact that I didn't know I needed everyone at the Mizar Temple. Without this walkthrough guide, I wouldn't have gotten close to completing this. While the Doom influences are definitely seen throughout the game, from the hardcore fast action to the gore and violence, especially the secrets, Doom didn't make them mandatory. It's the biggest reason why Jet Force Gemini is a cult classic and not a straight up classic like the games that inspired it. Everything from humanoids, giant tanks, to AI-controlled robots, all having very similar characteristics to their role, but with simplistic but massive changes, like the color determining what rank they are, which determines how much health they have. But the biggest difference is the weaponry. Drones start out with regular pistols and sniper rifles, putting a bullet in their head is the simplest answer to exterminating this bug problem, but as the game goes on, they'll start upgrading to running shields like they're an anime montang, and the biggest bugs need a little heavier firepower to handle. Shield enemies are probably the most annoying type to run into, as you have to shoot around their shields with precision aiming. It's usually a little bit better to chuck a grenade or just hit them with a rocket launcher, but don't worry. Then there are snipers and ninja types too. They do add a lot of problems. Jet Force Gemini as a unit are so badass that they scare even them. But that's not the case with the Hulk-like drones, holding the biggest weapons and taking the most damage, acting as a weaponized door in some scenarios. Then we got our last set of drones. The flying robot AIs, being absolutely obnoxious, flying in specific patterns just to be difficult targets to hit, or just outnumbering you and firing maliciously on you, while being one of the easiest enemies to deal with alone. With the sheer numbers and the fact that they can blot out the sun with the sheer amount of lasers fired at you, can make them more dangerous. All enemies are drones in some way, shape, or form. Is this a pun on them being robot drones? I'm embarrassingly proud I figured that out. Well, how do we deal with these enemies, you say? Well, we have a very large array of weapons, like your standard machine guns and rocket launchers, and joke weapons like fish food. It must be meant to clutter your inventory.
Off the wall things in Jet Force, we had the kind of main game, the kind of cohesive space game, but then we had a bit of fun as well while we were making it, so there were lots of little things that kind of made it into there. One of them was the fish food.
So the fish food in Jet Force was probably one of the most controversial features, bizarrely. The fish food was there to feed fish, and that's all it did, and that seemed to infuriate some people who felt it should have a higher purpose.
So what does the fish food do? And the answer would be, you use it to feed fish. Then the question would come back, what can you actually do with it? What could you use the fish food for in the game? And the answer was, you feed fish with it. And this was just a recurring theme about what the actual fish food, what purpose the fish food served in the game.
And that's not including just bad weapons like the shotgun, or useless gear like flares and grenades. Some only having one use for the whole game. With all that, we do have 4 winners. In the machine gun, tri-rockets, homing rockets, and the sniper rifle. So let's focus on these. The machine gun is the workhorse for at minimum 90% of Jet Force Gemini. Importantly, you can resupply off of dead drones, picking up their guns, so that if you're careful, you'll rarely run out of ammo. Both rocket launchers are the best weapons bar none, having the best damage, crowd control, versatility, and your main way to damage bosses. This is where the Metroidvania influences kick in. Every stage of every world is littered with ammo pickups, increasing your maximum capacity to unleash more devastation. After Juno lands on the planet Goldwood, we begin our adventure. After infiltrating the SS Anubis, we'll rescue Vela. you run into the coolest aspect of Jet Force Gemini. At any time, you can switch to the other campaigns and continue where they left off. And after Vela meets Lupus, on Ichikor, a military planet run by the drones, will have 3 separate campaigns, doing all at once with all 3 members on the journey to Mizar's temple. With 10 main stages, we get a massive variety of lush forests, lava planets, alien spaceships, mining facilities, and my favorite, a marsh filled with zombie drones. Each planet with branching paths for every member, with new missions and even new worlds to explore. Now, to see the ending, you'll need to collect 100% of the tribals and 100% of the ship parts. Going back and rechecking every single box, corridor, and hole, every crack in a wall has something you need to complete the game. Not including the optional ammo pickups, well, only optional for some members. Finding all the tribals broke me. I had never experienced the problem in previous playthroughs, because when I was younger, I never got past this puzzle. Don't worry, the same thing happened to me last time too. But this time, I have the power of a walkthrough. And if I didn't, I would never have saved 282 Ewoks. And if you want to complete this game, you have to save every last one of them. Some worlds are much worse than others. Shooting all the hidden switches across the SS Anubis to free them is rough. My favorite is using the flares in this random house to find a ledge and save this family. And that's the only time I use them, by the way. After all is said and done, the biggest problem Jet Force Gemini has was negated and minimized with the Rare Replay update to fix the controls. The second half really hurts it with going through the entire game again, saving every single tribal, and getting 12 ship parts. Sometimes going into the same level multiple times with different characters. For 4 to 6 hours, this is a classic. But then you get this busy work. It got down to the point that I was just playing this while watching a walkthrough video on YouTube. At 2x speed, by the way. Trying to find all of them, and I still missed one, forcing me to check every single level again. Having said all that, the tone, the action, especially in the Rare Replay version, are top notch. If you played Perfect Dark or GoldenEye 007, this should be on your list of must-play games, as long as you're prepared for the second half. Or if you're just the type of person who loves exploring levels over and over again, and finding every little secret, because you'll need to. It can be fun to try out cult classics like this, and go back and give it a second go, like I did.
I think on the team we were really generally quite satisfied with the critical reviews we got. We got lots of 8s out of 10s, 9s out of 10s, and always lots of compliments for the art as well, which particularly pleasing from our point of view. I think the creative energy of everyone on that team really shines through in the product. We loved working on it because we had so much creative input ourselves.
Not by any means do I think it's a faultless game, but I hope that it was a fun game that people could enjoy, and it was a bit more kind of, I don't know, off the wall, I suppose, compared to a lot of games.
It's still a real gem of a game, and definitely worth checking out.
If you like this video, check out the videos around here. I do everything from old school to weird and obscure shit. And why not subscribe too?